Psychology is, quite simply, the scientific study of the mind and behavior. It is a quest to understand what makes us tick. This fascinating field explores the intricate workings of our thoughts. This fascinating field explores the powerful currents of our emotions. This fascinating field explores the myriad of actions that we take every single day. It delves into the reasons we do the things we do, when we are entirely on our own, when we are surrounded by others in the bustling theatre of society. In essence, it is a mirror held up to the human condition, helping us to decipher the complex patterns of our own lives and gain a deeper appreciation for the people with whom we share this world. It is a subject not just for academics in ivory towers, but for every single one of us. The importance of psychology can be seen in every corner of our daily existence. Have you ever wondered why you feel a sudden pang of anxiety before a public presentation? Or why a certain song can instantly transport you back to a childhood memory with startling clarity? Psychology seeks to provide the answers to these very personal questions. That's essentially what psychology offers. The entire field of psychology in all its wonderful variety can be understood through four primary goals. These aims provide a clear framework guiding research and practice. The very first goal is to describe behavior. This is the foundational step: observation and documentation. Observe a child's interactions on a playground. Record physiological responses of someone facing a fear. Document stages of language acquisition. This phase gathers raw data, painting a detailed portrait of behavior without offering interpretation. Next, explain behavior. This is where the why questions come in. Why does that child act aggressively on the playground? Why does a person's heart race at the sight of a spider? Psychologists form theories and hypotheses. They look at genetic makeup, past learning experiences, current thought patterns, social pressures. The goal: build a coherent narrative that identifies causes. Third goal: predict future behavior. If we understand causes, we can make educated guesses. For example, lack of sleep impairs memory. Students who pull all-nighters will likely perform worse. Prediction is not fortune-telling. It's scientific forecasting. It has practical value in many areas. Fourth goal: change or control behavior. This is often the most visible aim. It's not sinister manipulation, but applying knowledge for positive change. Clinical therapy, helping clients change harmful thought and behavior patterns. Educational psychology, changing teaching methods to improve learning. Industrial psychology, altering workplace structures to increase satisfaction and productivity. Ultimately, this goal is about empowerment, improving well-being, and achieving desired outcomes. Understanding psychology is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is a practical tool for living a more informed, compassionate, and fulfilling life. Psychology, as a formal scientific discipline, is relatively young, but its intellectual roots stretch back for millennia. Long before the first laboratory was built, great thinkers of ancient civilizations were grappling with fundamental questions about the mind, consciousness, human nature. Philosophers from Greece, such as Plato, Aristotle, debated the relationship between the mind and the body and the sources of human knowledge. These early inquiries, though not scientific in the modern sense, laid the essential groundwork for questions psychology would one day answer through systematic investigation. They planted the seeds of curiosity about our inner world, a curiosity that would eventually blossom into a fully fledged science dedicated to understanding the human experience. The pivotal moment that marked the birth of psychology as a distinct science arrived in 1879. That year, a German professor, Wilhelm Wundt, opened the first experimental psychology laboratory at the University of Leipzig. Wundt insisted the mind could and should be studied with the same scientific rigor as the natural sciences. He used methods like introspection, where trained observers would carefully report their thoughts, feelings in response to specific stimuli. Soon after, Viennese physician Sigmund Freud introduced a revolutionary and influential perspective. Freud proposed much of our mind operates outside conscious awareness. He argued these hidden unconscious desires, memories, conflicts, often stemming from early childhood, exert a powerful influence over behavior and personality. Many of his specific theories have been debated and modified over the years, but Freud's concept of the unconscious opened new avenues for exploring human motivation and mental distress, leaving an indelible mark on psychology and Western culture. From these foundational pillars, psychology grew and diversified through the 20th century. Different schools of thought emerged: behaviorists, humanists, the cognitive revolution. Behaviorists focused on observable actions, humanists emphasized personal growth and free will. The cognitive revolution refocused attention on internal mental processes like thinking, memory. This rich, often contentious history of competing ideas has strengthened the field, creating the multifaceted, comprehensive discipline we know today, capable of examining human experience from many complementary angles. To truly understand the richness of psychology, one must appreciate that it is not a single, monolithic entity. Instead, it is a collection of different viewpoints or perspectives, each offering a unique lens on human behavior and mental processes. These perspectives aren't necessarily in competition. They provide complementary insights, like different tools in a toolbox, each suited for a particular job. A psychologist might use one perspective for a biological process and another for a social one. Grasping these viewpoints unlocks a deeper, holistic understanding of human nature. Imagine trying to understand why a person is shy. Look at brain chemistry or genetic predispositions. Look at learned experiences such as being criticized. Look at internal thought patterns like fear of being judged. Look at cultural norms around social interaction. None of these are exclusively right or wrong. Their power comes when combined into a nuanced picture. The 6 major perspectives are biological, behavioral, cognitive, humanistic, psychodynamic, socio-cultural. Each framework has its own assumptions, focus, and methods. Thinking this way lets you analyze behavior from multiple angles. The biological perspective is one of the most fundamental approaches in psychology. It asserts that all of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors have an underlying biological basis. This viewpoint explores the intricate links between our mind and our body. Brain, nervous system, hormones, genetics. Proponents believe to understand behavior, we must first understand the physical hardware that produces it. For example, they study specific neurotransmitters, chemical messengers in the brain. These chemicals are linked to mood disorders like depression. A simple example, the rush of adrenaline you feel when frightened, is a direct biological response designed to prepare your body for action. This perspective uses advanced tools and techniques to peer into the brain. MRI, PET scans. These scans let researchers observe brain activity as people perform tasks, linking processes to regions. Genetic studies also help untangle heredity and environment. Twin research is especially useful for separating genes from experience. The biological approach has been successful in explaining and treating severe mental illnesses. It led to medications that can correct chemical imbalances and alleviate suffering. It reminds us we are, at our core, biological creatures. Our psychology is rooted in physiology. For behaviorists, the mind is a black box that cannot be studied scientifically. They study how environmental factors, stimuli, influence measurable actions, responses. Behaviorists believe all behavior is learned through conditioning, forming associations between events. Example, a child learns to say please to get a biscuit. The core idea: we are products of our environment and our learning histories. There are 2 main types of conditioning. Classical conditioning is learning by association. Pavlov's dogs learn to salivate at the sound of a bell. A human example, feeling anxious whenever you smell the disinfectant used at a dentist's office. Operant conditioning is learning from the consequences of our behavior. If a behavior is followed by a reward, it is more likely to be repeated. If it is followed by a punishment, it is less likely to occur. This perspective has had a huge impact on therapy, education, and animal training, providing practical strategies for changing behavior. At its core, psychology is driven by a profound sense of curiosity about the human experience. It is a discipline that refuses to accept simple, superficial answers. Instead, it pushes us to look deeper, to question our assumptions, and to appreciate the remarkable complexity that defines us as a species. From the firing of a single neuron in the brain to the intricate social dynamics of an entire culture, psychology casts a wide and ambitious net. Emerging in the mid-20th century, the cognitive perspective represented a major shift back towards studying the mind itself. This viewpoint focuses on the mental processes that behaviorists had dismissed: thinking, memory, perception, problem-solving, language. Cognitive psychologists liken the human mind to a sophisticated computer, taking in information from the environment, processing and storing it, producing a behavioral response, output. They study the internal software that governs our actions. A simple example, studying the mental steps to solve a complex puzzle, or how someone organizes information to prepare for an exam. The cognitive revolution brought new research methods designed to infer mental processes from observable behavior. It led to cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT helps people identify and change negative or irrational thought patterns. The cognitive view reminds us interpretation of events shapes emotions and behavior. The humanistic perspective arose as a reaction too. It offers a more optimistic, holistic view of human nature, championed by Carl Rogers, championed by Abraham Maslow. Humanistic psychology emphasizes free will, personal growth, and the drive towards self-actualization. Section 7. The Hidden Depths and Social Fabric. Psychodynamic and Sociocultural Views. The psychodynamic perspective has its origins in the work of Sigmund Freud, and it focuses on the powerful influence of the unconscious mind on our behavior. This viewpoint proposes that our personality and actions are shaped by a dynamic interplay of inner forces, drives, conflicts. Early childhood experiences are critically important, forming the foundation of our adult personality and relationships. Unresolved conflicts or traumas from our past can get locked in the unconscious and influence our current feelings and actions. Example: difficulties with authority in adulthood might stem from unresolved conflict with a parent during childhood. Psychodynamic theory introduced key concepts like the ego, defense mechanisms, Freudian slips. We often develop defense mechanisms such as denial, repression to protect ourselves from painful, anxiety-provoking thoughts. Modern psychodynamic theories have moved beyond some of Freud's ideas, but they still emphasize exploring a person's inner world and past experiences. This led to therapies such as psychoanalytic therapy and psychodynamic therapy, which bring unconscious conflicts to the surface to be resolved. Finally, the socio-cultural perspective broadens psychology beyond the individual to examine society and culture's powerful influence. You can't fully understand behavior without considering the social norms, cultural values, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status that shape thoughts, feelings, and actions. What is normal or abnormal, polite or rude, can vary dramatically from one culture to another. For example, how people express grief, the importance they place on individual achievement versus collective harmony, or even their personal space bubbles are all profoundly influenced by their cultural background. This perspective asks us to be mindful of our own cultural assumptions and to recognize the diversity of human experience. Section 8. The Scientific Method. How Psychology Finds Answers. A common misconception: psychology is just common sense or personal opinion. What truly distinguishes psychology is its commitment to the scientific method. Psychology is a science because it uses systematic methods. Psychology is a science because it uses empirical methods. It uses those methods to collect data. It uses those methods to analyze data. This lets researchers test ideas and build evidence-based theories about behavior and the mind. This rigorous approach separates knowledge from intuition or speculation. It ensures conclusions are supported by verifiable facts. That makes psychology a reliable source about the human condition. The scientific process begins with a question or with a theory, which leads to a specific testable prediction, a hypothesis. Example, getting 8 hours of sleep will improve performance on a memory test. To test it, researchers design a controlled experiment. Experiments are the gold standard. They can establish cause and effect. In the example, create an experimental group that gets 8 hours of sleep and a control group that gets 4 hours. Keep all other conditions the same, like the difficulty of the test. After the experiment, collect the data, memory test scores. Next, analyze the data with statistics. Statistics show whether differences are statistically significant. If the well-rested group performs better, we gain confidence sleep caused the improvement. Findings must be replicable. Other scientists should get similar results. Experiments are powerful, but they're not the only method. Naturalistic observation, surveys and questionnaires, case studies. Each method has strengths and weaknesses. All share a commitment to empirical evidence. Objective data lets us test ideas and refine a growing body of knowledge. Section 9. The branches of the tree. Psychology in practice. Just as medicine has specialists like cardiologists, dermatologists, psychology is a vast field with many distinct branches. Each branch focuses on a specific area of study and practice. These branches apply core principles and research methods of psychology to understand and solve problems in particular domains of human life, and one of the most well-known branches is clinical psychology. It focuses on assessment, diagnosis, and treatment of mental health disorders. Depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. Another closely related field is counseling psychology. It helps people navigate life challenges and stressors, relationship problems, career changes, bereavement. Often counseling focuses on healthier individuals. Another major branch is social psychology. It explores how our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by others. Social psychologists study topics like conformity, persuasion, prejudice, group dynamics. In contrast, cognitive psychology delves into internal mental processes. It studies how we think, perceive, remember, learn. Psychology also plays a vital role in work and law, and health psychology focuses on how psychological factors affect health. Section 10. Conclusion. Why psychology matters to you. In the end, psychology is far more than just an academic subject. It is a powerful tool for understanding the most complex and intimate subject of all, ourselves. It provides a framework for making sense of our own thoughts, decoding our emotions, recognizing patterns in our behavior. By learning why we procrastinate, what triggers our anxieties, or how we form our habits, we gain the invaluable power of self-awareness. This knowledge empowers us to make conscious choices, to change the things we wish to change, and to cultivate a more compassionate and accepting relationship with ourselves. Psychology helps us become the authors of our own lives, rather than passive characters. This understanding extends outwards, transforming how we see and interact with others. When we appreciate the complex web of biological, cognitive, social factors that shape a person's actions, it becomes easier to practice empathy and patience. Psychology helps us communicate more effectively, to resolve conflicts more constructively, and to build stronger, more meaningful relationships with our partners, family, friends, and colleagues. It teaches us that behind every behavior there is a reason, and seeking to understand that reason is the first step towards connection. It helps us move beyond judgment to a place of genuine curiosity and compassion for the people around us. On a broader scale, psychology is woven into the fabric of our society. They inform the way we raise our children, the way we educate our students, the way we lead our teams, and the way we strive to create a more just and equitable world. From designing public health campaigns that encourage healthy choices to creating therapeutic interventions that alleviate immense suffering, psychology solves real-world problems and improves human well-being. It is a practical, applied science with a tangible, overwhelmingly positive impact on millions of lives every day, making our communities safer, healthier, and more humane. If this brief journey has sparked your curiosity, I wholeheartedly encourage you to learn more. You do not need to enroll in a university course to begin. Start by simply observing the world around you through a psychological lens. Notice how advertisements try to persuade you. Think about the group dynamics in your workplace, or reflect on your own thought processes when you solve a problem. Pick up a popular science book on a branch that interests you, whether it be the workings of the brain or the art of social influence. Psychology is a vast and endlessly fascinating landscape, and exploring it is ultimately a journey into the heart of what it means to be human. It is a journey well worth taking. It offers us a map to better understand ourselves, our neighbors, and the shared journey we are all on. The insights it offers can be profoundly personal and universally applicable. By engaging with the principles of psychology, we begin to see the world through a new, more nuanced lens. We can start to recognize the subtle influences that shape our own choices and the choices of those around us. This understanding fosters empathy. Behavior is rarely born out of a vacuum. It is a journey into the very heart of what it means to be human.